How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. So 2022 is over, and I, being a comic book dealer, I thought it'd be interesting if we go through some of the best deals I had this past year. Now I have to say, the best one on here is it doesn't happen very often. Like this is kind of a deal that happens like maybe once every 5 years for me. Been doing this for a long time. And it has kind of a very interesting story of how it traded hands with multiple peoples, got regraded, all this kind of stuff. Tons of stuff happening with this book. Very interesting. I'll walk you through it, all of it. But yeah, so let's go through some of the best deals I got this past year. And if you like this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button and like this video. All right. At number 10, we got Sandman #1. Now, I bought this thing as a 9.8. I paid $300 for it. I later sold it for $10.49. That is up 197%. It took me about 313 days to sell that. I had fees of $157, and then that netted me $592. Now, I knew the show was coming out. I had this ready to go, and I kind of priced it pretty high, knowing that it was going to go higher down the road. So I kind of priced as like, okay, I know book's going to get hot. That's why it sat for, a whole year. Number 9, we got The Crow #1. It was an 8.5. I paid $277, sold for $975. That's up 252%. And that took me 50 days to sell. And it had no fees because I sold it through my website. And that sold for $698 in profit. So you might be wondering, like, 277, where did you get an 8.5 for 277 and then sell it a few days later? Well, actually, a lot of times what I do is I buy books, hold them back, thinking, okay, I know this is going to go up in value. And so I thought this was the time to release The Crow. And so I did. That's why I paid $277. I probably bought this book like years ago. Unlike the Sandman that I showed earlier, that one I just put it up and priced it knowing that it was eventually going to reach that price. Next, we got Fantastic Four #11. I bought a 6.5. I paid $472 for it and then sold for $1350. That is up 186%. It took 70 days to sell. I sold on my website, so I didn't have any fees, and that was a profit of $878. So this book I got out of a collection. Just kind of had it for a little bit and then, listed it, because usually sometimes when I get collections, it takes longer to get through. It's not like I instantly buy it and then put it right back up. So this one, although it says 70 days to sell, I had it for a bit longer than that. And as you know, 2022, some books actually went up in the beginning of the years, some went down. It was all over the place. So this one ended up working out. At number 7, we got Mickey Mouse book, and this has no number. This is very, very old. I paid $845 for it. I ended up selling it for about $2,200. That is up 122%. And then, yes, it took me 3,551 days to sell. So about 10 years I had this book. I ended up profiting about $874. If you do the math, that's roughly about 12% a year. And I sold this online and not through my website, so I had fees of $329. So yeah, took a long time. Some books on here, they just take a long time to sell. You have to find that right buyer. Now, this book we've had for so long. Oh my gosh, so long. And it just sat there and sat there. We originally had it priced, I think, like around like $6,000, then started dropping the price. And finally we ended up selling, $21.99 is what we ended up getting for it at the end. But yeah, we had this book. Sometimes books take a long, long time to sell. You have to find that right buyer, especially if it's rare. Like obviously if you have a Spiderman 300, boom, that's going to sell pretty quick if you price it right. But when it's super rare and unique, it takes longer to sell. And number 6, we have Amazing Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of Punisher. And 8.0, I paid $1,894. Ended up selling for almost $3,400. That was up 53%. It only took me 4 days to sell. It had fees of $509, and that profited of $996. So this one, I believe, I got out of a collection of books. Honestly, I can't remember where this one came from, but I believe it was. I don't think I got it through an auction or anything like that. I'm pretty sure I got it through a collection of books. I think most everything was not graded, but a few of the keys were graded. At number 5, we got Fantastic Four 19. This is the UK variant. Got a 7.5. I paid $464 for it. Ended up selling for about $2,300. That was up 322%. And it took me 46 days to sell. Fees were $340. That made me a profit of $14.95. So I think I got this one in an obscure like auction. And usually, this is kind of follows the same vein as the Mickey Mouse book. It's a UK variant, so a lot of times those are harder to move. Not that many people want them, but the people that do are willing to pay, a decent price for them. So that's kind of how this one happened. And number 4, we got Marvel Spotlight number 32. This is a 9.8. I paid $1,227. Ended up selling for almost $4,500. That is up 226%. And it took me 57 days to sell. And fees were about $500. Profit around $2,700. This one I actually got through Heritage's auction, and I held it back. I probably could have sold it sooner and got more money for it, but I must have had this book I bought it before the COVID boom. I know that much. I don't know exactly when was it early 2020, 2019? I don't really remember when, but I remember buying this book at Heritage, putting it back and just waiting for the market to go up on this book, and then sold it and got a pretty good price for it. So even though it says 57 days, it's really a lot more than that. But that's when I listed the actual book online. That's how long it took to sell. Next, we got Venom Funeral Pry, number 1. This is a manufactured error cover. So as you know, this normally has a holographic color, but nope, it's all gone and it's just the white. Very rare. A 9.6 of this. I bought it for a little over $1,100. And it ended up selling for about almost $3,500. That was up 204%. It took me 1,091 days to sell this one. There's no fees. It was through my website. That's basically 68% return every year. And that basically netted me about $2,300. So books like this are really, really hard to sell. That's why it took 3 years to sell. Now, I know this is an error. This is pretty much a 101. There's none like this at all. So if this was a normal 9.6 with the normal cover and everything like that, it'd be like, I don't know, $30 or something like that. So this is a 1 of 1. So it's like, how do you price a 1 of 1? How do you know what it's worth? I ended up getting this in auction, and I looked at it, and this is what I do. So I'm pretty much an expert in this field, and so I'm like, okay, this book is worth kind of like this amount. So I bid on it. I ended up winning it for $1,100 basically. And I knew what it's worth, just sat on it and wait for someone to come along and, pay what it's worth. I still think that's, a pretty good deal, $3,400 for this book. It's one of a kind. So it's hard to price things, but that's what I do. All right, and number 2, we got Suspense Comics number 8. I got a 4.5. I paid a little over $2,700 for it. Ended up selling for $6,800. Sold through the website, so no fees. That's up 145%. Took me 26 days to sell. That was a profit of about $4,000. Now, that is a lot, obviously. But this one I actually held back as well. It was a book that I had for many, many years, and then decided to sell it. So we were on the fence about keeping it for a while. And so it took a long time for us to decide. It was many, many years. So that's why this book, and it just, went through the huge comic book boom. So it got a huge boost in basically sale price right there. But again, this is an old golden age, super rare, highly desired cover. So didn't really have much trouble selling it. As you can see, sold within a month of me listing it, and then, made out pretty good. So on to our number 1. This one is a huge, huge one. Like I said, I normally don't get good deals like this. This is ridiculous. And as most of the time, if I can make like $100 on a book, I'm pretty happy, right? I'm pretty happy. Some books I sell, I actually lose money. But other books I sell, it's like I make like $5, $10, $15, stuff like that. So these are the best of the best. Like I said, I do this for a living. So I sell thousands and thousands of books a year. So these aren't like, this is the best 10 out of thousands upon thousands and thousands and thousands of books I sell. So let's look at the number 1, and it's very impressive. I'm very happy. So we got Wiz Comics number 1. This was a CBCS 1.0. I paid $11,800 for it. Ended up selling for $23,000. That was about a 95% return. and it was on my website, no fees. It took about almost a year, 306 days, and that was profit of about 11,000. And the thing with this comic is it had a married back cover. So it was pretty much missing a basket. It was all brittle, falling apart, but it had a married back cover, and it was a CBCS 1.0. So this book is actually quite interesting. So originally, this book sold on Heritage as a 0.5 no back cover. And you can tell it's the same book because right by the car that's getting smashed on the wall, it has the same missing piece. Same book, missing back cover, 0.5, sold for $13,200 back in 2019. Then whoever had it decided to put a back cover to it and then put some gross back cover. I'm pretty sure it's the right one. They just married one to it. And if you don't know what married means, it basically means you take a page or a cover or something from another book and put it with another book. So if you have an Action Comics #1 and it's missing the centerfold, you can take a centerfold for another Action Comics #1, stick it in there. It'll have a married centerfold, but at least it's complete. Same with covers. If it's missing a cover, if you have a covers book and then you have a cover over here, you can put them together. In this case, it was missing the back cover, so someone just took a back cover and I don't know how they put a little piece of tape or just put it back there. That's all they really did. So it's complete now, has a back cover, but it's a completely different back cover to a different book. So that person then put a back cover to it, sold it on Comic Connect, and sent it to CBCS. Why did they send it to CBCS? I'm assuming because they thought it would get a higher grade, which it did. It went from 0.5 to a 1.0 because now they had a back cover. And now it went in auction and sold for almost $12,000. So even though all that work, adding a back cover, it sold for about $1,000 less than Heritage. So then I get it, and I have it up for about a year. I was watching an auction because I was like, I don't know how to price this thing. It's super rare. What is it worth? I had it up for around 25,000, 24, somewhere around there. And I think it was 25,000, and it just sat for a year. But then, lo and behold, a Wiz Comics #1, missing a back cover, 0.5, came up in Heritage. What are the odds? That's super rare. Two of the exact same book, same big mistake happening, both missing a back cover. But this one's from the Promise collection. So then it ends in April 9th for $30,000. So then I instantly take that book. I'm like, okay, now ours is a $30,000. So I put it up to $30,000, but I didn't know this at the time. Someone else was watching the auction and was working out a deal with my brother on the side. And at the time, the auction was lower, and we had it up for $25,000. And they were working out a deal. And so then I raised the price, and but they already had a deal kind of worked out. And so we honored the price, even though it's like, it went up to $30,000 basically for the same book. And I priced it up to $30,000. We had already worked out a deal. And so we honored that price of basically $23,000. But yeah, that's all the best deals, working their way up from the, 10th to the first place. Yeah, so 2022 in the beginning was pretty good, actually, not that bad. Towards the end of the year, actually started dipping down, lost a lot of money on a lot of books, and that will be the next video. My top 10 books I've lost money on, or the biggest losers, I guess, for me. So have a good weekend.